The late comrade Johnson Malcomess Mgabela Ukwalo played a very significant role in the struggle for liberation of the oppressed black masses of our people. Now, he joined the African National Congress in the early 50s when Comrade Alcott Skwenene Kwenje was the leader in the East London area. In 1957, an ANC in its national conference took a decision to boycott potatoes, because after an investigation that was done, it was discovered that now farm laborers were being ill-treated. Now, in this regard, reporters of New Age, which was the mouthpiece of the liberation movement, Ruth First and Joe Gabi, after an underground operation, they were able to expose what took place at Bethany. So the ANC took a decision that now potatoes should be boycotted. Now, Mgabela featured very prominently in this regard, in that now the implementation of the boycott had to be done by the volunteers. So Mgabela and his team in East London, they moved all over, checking that now people don't buy potatoes. And in some instances, they would go to the pot to look what is being cooked. Because the decision was taken that now we have to boycott potatoes because of what happened in the Transvaal at that time. In 1963, B.J. Foster, who was the Minister of Justice at that time, piloted a bill in Parliament known as the General Laws Amendment Act, the 90-Day Act, which was passed, meaning that now a person could be detained for 90 days with no access to a defense lawyer. And any commissioned officer could take a decision to detain a person. Yeah. Following that now, there was a mass arrest in July 1963. Remember that time, Rivonia was raided during the same time, and Walter Sisulu and others were arrested. So all over the country, for instance, I was arrested in July, Mgabela was arrested in July, and many of us were arrested in July and were detained. Mgabela was detained at the Fleet Street police station. I was detained at Cambridge police stations. Others were detained at Qumga. As far as Qumga, people, because the idea was that they kept you just by yourself because they wanted to extract information from you. People were tortured by the vicious special branch of the time, Sergeant Cart included. He was sergeant at that time, Donald Cart, included there. Was one of the people who were torturing people, but not only him, it was a team. Then in September 1963, we were all brought together and they were formally charged. We appeared before East London Magistrate President Wood. The tentative charge was sabotage. And it was indicated that now we're waiting for a word from the Office of the Attorney General regarding the indictments. So there were several formal reprimands because of a disturbance that took place in East London. In one of these appearances, a decision was taken that now all courts will sit at East London Prison. We were a group, the case was State versus Douglas Zulu Sparks and 53 others. And in this 53, there were two ladies included, Mrs. Nomachaka Mgabela and Mrs. Bertha Joy. They were detained in the female prison in East London. At that time, it was Lock Street Prison, which has been closed now. So they were in the group. Then the formal charges were given out in February. And the conspiracy charge had been quashed in the PE area. A group, State versus Richard Tokwe and 52 others, they appeared before the Supreme Court in Grahamstown under conspiracy. Then the defense team that was led by Advocate Melansky quashed that indictment. Then from there, they separated our cases. So in our case, the cases were separated too. So the Border Regional High Command had their own case. We appeared in Queenstown before Justice DJ Kluti, facing charges of sabotage, alternatively furthering the aims of a banned organization. We were Mgabela number 1, Sparks number 2, Bongo number 3, Chwete number 5, number 4, Dwaba number 5. Tule Masiza, I need to mention that now at that time, who was our secretary, had escaped, he was abroad. And the other person, Reginald Mdobe, was a state witness. I need to mention that. The case continued, facing 13 charges of counts under sabotage and 3 counts under furthering the aims of a banned organization, African National Congress. We were all found guilty on the alternative charge of furthering the aims of a banned organization. And Mgabela was found guilty on 1 charge under sabotage. Bongo was also found guilty under sabotage, and he was sentenced to be hanged. Bongo, incidentally, was hanged. Mgabela got 18 years on 1 count of sabotage. All of us, we got 5 years on each count of the 3 counts under alternative charge. So meaning that now we're to serve a total of 15 years. So Mgabela was 18 and 15 years, but the judge says the other is going to run concurrently with the other. So he served 18 years. The entire sentence was served on Robben Island, a notorious prison of Robben Island, where conditions were very tough. Well, Mgabela was a leader in the true sense of the word. He was far-sighted. He was able to see things before other people were able to see them. Now, he saved us as the Border Regional High Command from the gallows, in the sense that now, in one of our meetings, then somebody mentioned how operations should be directed. Mgabela says, not in this meeting. Yeah, not in this meeting. You can't discuss that in this meeting. So that saved us, because the judge says there's no evidence that indicated that the Border Regional High Command ever discussed the acts of sabotage that were carried out in East London and around, and therefore they are not guilty on that. So he saved us. He says, I'm going to look at individuals, and that's how Bongo was caught, because he was the field commander.